Well, this is a definite step up from Ghostbusters, but alas, it does not escape the association. And that's because, just like that 2016 film, for all that Ocean's 8 gets right, it's still not an original. And who wants a fake? Just ask these ladies. And speaking of these ladies, while they might look cool standing there, as I've mentioned before, with this very movie and my trailer reactions, I don't think that strong roles for women mean as much if they are created in a bubble. And what I mean by that is that it's only a true victory if strong male characters are in the mix as well. We want an even playing field here, right? And you know what? It's not a competition. We just want good characters across the board. And speaking of male characters, by the way, it is not a good look for this movie that a guy, James Corden, is such a welcome breath of fresh air when he shows up in the last act. That's because he feels he's in a comedy, but for some reason, this movie's actually not that funny. I don't know why. I don't know how that happened, but James Corden and Awkwafina are doing all the heavy lifting here. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But that, all that said, Ocean's 8 has enough strengths going for it that I would say that it's a fun, if forgettable, time at the movies. The best part of the movie is by far and away the opening with Sandra Bullock's Debbie Ocean. She's Danny's sister, and Danny's dead, but they put enough of a question mark on it, right? They keep being like, she's like, I hope you're dead, Danny, and like, I didn't see the body. Basically, they're like really winking that George Clooney could totally come back. The door is open to him for Ocean's 9 if he's so inclined. Based on this movie, I don't really see it happening, but who knows, right? So Debbie gets out of jail. Debbie Gets Out of Jail sounds like the title for a different type of movie, right? But anyway, the scams that she pulls at the beginning are such a delight to watch. They are both clever and posh. It's definitely, by the way, the fantasy version of A Life of Crime. In fact, she borrows heavily from Kevin McAllister's M.O. But it was still just pure fun. I wish the whole movie operated on the same level as like the opening couple of scenes. And also the music that plays over these sequences, plus the famous New York City locations, they do a lot to bolster the mood and buy some goodwill, or actually steal some goodwill considering the rest of the movie, which is desperately needed to get the audience through the long slog of assembling the crew. Not as much fun here for some reason. It really does seem like a chore. The only good thing actually about the rest of the movie is the heist. Well, there's actually 2 heists, and you might be like, God damn it, Grace, why did you tell me there are 2 heists? Well, I actually did you a favor, because if you know this going in, you will not have the horrible knee-jerk reaction that my entire audience did when we were like, oh, the movie's over. Oh, it was fun. It was a light little romp. We got through it. And then they're like, surprise, there's another half hour to go. And we were like, what? So that was I don't think that I think they wanted it to be like a clever twist and be like, oh, the movie's not over. And I think they expected the audience to be like, yay. But instead the audience was like, boy, you better prove that this was worth keeping me for an extra 30 minutes. And I think to only some degree they did. And I think James Corden did the heavy lifting. He showed up with a jolt of comedic energy. And then, speaking of comedy again, this movie is surprisingly not that funny, which is weird because Sandra Bullock is such a gifted comedian. It's one of the ways she first made her mark in Hollywood. But then I guess Gary Ross, is spearheading this whole thing as the director. And not only did he direct it and co-write it, but it was his idea to tell an all-female version of the Ocean's movies. And he's never proven to be that funny. I mean, Lionsgate certainly wasn't laughing when he did the shaky cam dilemma with the first Hunger Games movie, and then they tossed him. Oh, he stayed on. Don't worry, he made a lot of money off those movies. I don't think they were able to toss him totally because that was also his idea. Gary Ross, good idea man, not so good at executing. Put him in the same category as David Goyer. But back to the comedy situation. Mindy Kaling, she doesn't really get any jokes either. And then, as I said, the only one to really shine besides Corden was Awkwafina, not just because she had some zingers, But, I think Awkwafina really took matters into her own hands. Mindy Kaling, oh, you don't give me any jokes, I'm just going to kind of flounder here. But Awkwafina was like, I'm going to do the best I can with what little you've given me. So she not only did a good job delivering her jokes, but I think she had like a comedic vibe, a really strong comedic vibe throughout the entire film. Just sometimes just standing there, or just how she would move, or say just a throwaway line. You were like, that's pretty funny. So I thought this movie, at the very least, will do a lot for Awkwafina. And considering the bad response to her in the Crazy Rich Asians trailer, I guess at the end of the day, it'll just, by the end of 2018, it'll just balance itself out. So back to the heist. Don't let anyone spoil for you how they pull either one off, because that's really the only thing that's going to keep you interested in the majority of this film, including some cute cameos from Ocean's 11. Nothing big, though. You're like, like part of you is like, and then part of you is like, you couldn't get anybody better than that. Like, that really speaks to how people felt about this movie. But the plan itself is pretty clever. It not only keeps you interested because it's the only thing there, besides like the locations too. Like being inside the Met Gala was fun. I liked that. I thought that was a neat little treat to go behind Anna Wintour's security, right? But the plan is legitimately has its points. However, I would like to add that while the original caper in Ocean's 11 was certainly far-fetched as well, for some reason, Soderbergh was able to make it totally believable. I was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense to me. I think they could pull it off, right? But here I was like, oh, such a movie. Oh, you know what? It's not for some reason Soderbergh was able to pull it off. I just think he's more talented than Gary Ross. All right, so now as for that all-star cast, you might be thinking to yourself, how can this be, Grace? Look at this cavalcade of stars. Well, my first thing I put in my notes was the cast is too damn big. There's not enough room for all these ladies to shine. Yet, it's smaller than the Ocean's 11 cast, and there's only 17 extra minutes in that movie. So again, I just think it's just not well constructed, right? And then also I think the characters are a little too muted, both by design, and then none of the actresses decided to make a break for it besides Awkwafina. Also, this was weird. I believe the movie strongly hints that Cate Blanchett's character is a lesbian, and there seems to be a flirtatious vibe between her and Bullock. I actually heard a rumor that in one edit or version of this film, they had a romantic past, but that for some reason the studio decided to cut it from the movie. But they didn't cut all of it, because the romantic energy, is still there. A lot of energy in this movie. It is fun. But the fact that the movie ignores it just makes it all the more a point of focus. You're like, what's going on there? And why aren't you elaborating on it? And also, why is Cate Blanchett's role so small? So they must have cut a lot of stuff, which, come to think of it. So aside from Awkwafina and Corden and Cate Blanchett's wardrobe, right? It's rare for female characters in movies to have a wardrobe that I would categorize as so aggressive. It was really a character in and of itself. There are really only two other standouts in the movie. So there's Sandra Bullock, simply because she's the lead and has the most screen time. And then also, you're not going to believe this, Anne frickin' Hathaway. Because you know what she decided to do? She decided to deliciously embrace the caricature that she has become and turn it up to an 11. And she's also trying really hard to rebrand herself here, and also in that new Matthew McConaughey trailer that hit today, as a sex symbol, as a sex kitten. And I don't know how that's going to work out as a long-term play, but in this specific movie, it does work. I thought she actually did a very good job. She, at least like Awkwafina, she went for it. She brought a lot of energy to what she was doing. And because her character was just so outlandish, and Anne Hathaway was like, I'm going for it, it was hard for any other character to compete with her for attention on screen. Now, finally, one thing that I really liked about the movie, particularly at the ending, that I found very satisfying, was depicting women wanting money simply for themselves and to achieve their own personal dreams. There was very little romance in this movie. It was hardly there at all. And, I love a good romance as much as the next person, but it was nice to have a change of pace and to not have these characters motivated by significant others or family. They just had their own selfish, dreams, just like, male thieves often do. And I thought that was great. It's actually the most original thing about Ocean's 8, which makes for a very satisfying ending. And as I've told you before, if you're going to stick anything, stick the landing. Well, this movie actually, come to think of it, Gary Ross did two important things. He stuck the opening and he stuck the landing. So that's what I think contributes largely to making me have an overall still positive viewpoint of this movie despite all the problems I just outlined, right? But as for making this movie, legitimately, more than just a fond memory, it just, that specialness just comes too late in the film. It should have been sown throughout the movie if it was going to actually make this a standout. So should you see Ocean's 8? I'm on the fence as to whether or not you should see Ocean's 8, quite frankly. But so the way I would describe it is that it's not a must-see. If you never saw Ocean's 8, you would not be poorer for it. But if you're looking for something fun and pleasant to pass the time, and we've all been there where you're like, I've seen everything. What the hell am I going to watch? Be it at home, be it on an airplane, be it in a hotel. Well, if you clicked on this, I think you'd be pleased with the choice, especially if it was, again, just to pass the time. All right, so that's my review of Ocean's 8. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts down below. Thank you for talking about it with me, and you can check out some more videos, of course, right now.